All right, what is up, everybody? Is this thing working? Is this thing on? Welcome, everybody, back to the channel. Andy here. Thanks for joining me today. And this is our first live stream of 2021. We are going to give this thing a whirl again. This is the first time I think I've done a live stream, and it's almost been a year. I think it was last January that I did a bunch of live streams right at the tail end of the year and the beginning of 2021, and then just got busy and everything else, and we were doing the trips and all the other videos and whatnot. So it kind of got shelved for a little while, and it's always been in the back of my mind, and I knew I wanted to come back to it at some point in time. And I think it's just being indoors and in the cold, and you kind of miss having the conversations. You know, maybe you're not sitting around the campfires as often as you were in the fall or the summertime, and you just kind of miss it. So there's been, a little thought in the back of my head, like, all right, when are you going to pull this out again? When are we going to do the live stream, start the conversations, get the chat going, which I see is going on, and go from there. So I'm super excited. It looks like there's already, quite a few people here. We've got, I think Brian, you were first, from what I can tell. So, credit where credit is due, and welcome everybody. I will do my best to join in the conversations that are going on. So keep those flying. Also, important things first. While we get started, drink them if you got them. Tonight I'll be tapping into the Woodford Reserve Double Oaked bourbon. So, and if you follow me on Instagram, which if you don't, I'm not sure why you're not following me on Instagram, but you totally should. And for those that don't know, there it is down below. But I posted this. My son got me. It's hard to tell, but this is actually the Death Star. So he got me a Star Wars ice cube mold, and I will be using that on all of my live streams going forward. So toast, everybody. Let's start with a toast. So cheers. Let 22 be better than 21. All right. So let's dive right in. That's good. That's good. What's everybody drinking out there? So if you are drinking, what do you got? We'll see who wins that too. Who's got the most creative, the topper. Wow, that is good. All right. So tonight I wanted to talk just a little bit about kind of wrapping up 21, getting into 22, and just what's in store for the channel. What are my plans for the year? What are some new things that I'm looking to add, expand in the channel? Big trips that we've got going on. I've got a whole list here of things that I want to get. Now it helps if I put it on the right page, because that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense if I read what was on the page before, but that might have been fun. Just a whole range of different things. A lot of the same stuff is going to be there too, but we're going to be adding some new things and having some fun. So if you didn't see too, there's some nifty stuff out there. Links on the channel too, to some merch and whatnot, some sharp stuff. So I'm sporting that as well. Let's see, what do we got? Cranberry ginger ale. That sounds pretty tasty. Peach mango, Walmart energy drink, living that hard life. Yeah, I hear you. What else? Diet Mountain Dew. Well, that's That's all right. I think you can do better, Michael. But all right, so let's talk a little bit about the channel, what's going on. I am going to have an occasional live stream. I like doing these. Um, they're fine, by yourself and feeding off the chats and whatnot that's going on. I like that, but I do like having the conversations. I like talking to real people. Go figure. So the plan is going forward to have a few more of these sprinkled in with some of the other content that I've been doing over the last couple years. So still going to do the gear reviews. I'm still going to do the epic trips and whatnot, but I want to add in a couple more of these kind of conversational things. So just having fun, sitting around, having a drink, and maybe we talk a little bit about outdoor stuff, some backpacking, but maybe we talk a little bit about life and what's going on too. So just have a good time and kind of expand the channel with that. So, maybe we'll do one of these a month and just have different personalities on. There's a couple people in the chat that are actually going to be on the first of those type of live streams for this year. Chris, that hiking guy, and Brian from Carlson Adventures, they're going to be joining me Thursday. We're going to do another one of these live streams around 8:00. Thank you, gentlemen, for jumping on to that live stream. But the topic that night is going to be them actually and their channel, their endeavor that they've recently launched. So we'll talk a little bit about that more on Thursday. But they've got kind of a creative thing too, and interesting. And again, same type of theme of, hey, let's further these conversations and build this community. And I like what they do, so I thought that would be a great first guest kind of appearance. I have those two guys on, so thanks guys for joining in the craziness. And and then I've got a couple more that I'm have slated to do probably the following Thursday is what we're looking at. So maybe this will be a Thursday night thing, but have a couple guys on and do a couple different topics. So we may just pick different topics throughout the year, whatever's seasonal, whatever's going on, whatever's timely, and just have some good conversation. So that's kind of the hope for the live stream stuff. I think it'll be just a nice addition to what we've got going on. So that's a good question. Michael, I don't know that anybody can do that, but we're going to give it a whirl. And I think it would help too if you drink a little bit more before the show starts. So feel free to crack one open before, maybe a couple. But we'll see what we can do. We'll have some fun. I think it's possible. So anything's possible, right? It's 22. The sky's the limit. Okay. Other things that I wanted to kind of announce just for the channel stuff is to talk a little bit about where I want some of the other stuff to go. In particular, I'm looking to expand some slightly different type of content too on the channel. If you've watched at all, and I'm guessing if you're here, you probably have watched at least a little bit. It's a lot of epic backpacking trips, like going out to Colorado, and we've got some trips in the cards for 22 we'll talk about in a little bit. Stuff around the East Coast, just anything that's exciting, interesting, going for, multi-days, 3-4 days kind of thing, and more. Those kind of trips will still continue. I'm constantly evaluating different locations and trying to kind of nail down what's possible, in this new world that we're in. Still being safe and smart, and juggling the family life and all of that of not just picking up and leaving whenever I want, but trying to be respectful of all that too. So that stuff will continue, but I'm also looking to do a little bit more outside of just backpacking stuff. And what's really piqued my interest over the last couple of years, and I've really wanted to expand on it, but just haven't had a lot of opportunity, is going to be some of the canoe camping. I did Boundary Waters last year, and I did that back in 2019. So I've had 2 trips up there and done that, and just absolutely love that kind of experience. So I'm actually looking right now of trying to secure a boat of my own. Maybe at some point in time, I've got to save up for that. But I'd love to, do a couple different trips throughout the year, canoe camping, different locations. I've been looking at upstate New York. I've been looking at back to Minnesota, which I will be back in 22. That is one of the trips that is on the books as of right now, is a week in the Boundary Waters. So excited to go back and do that. I went with my family this past summer, but this one will be just my son is the only one that's joining me from the family, but there is a group of scouts that's going along. So I'll be chaperoning. Yeah. I'm the chaperone. So we'll keep them out of trouble. We'll keep them safe and have a great time, do some fishing, catch some walleye, hopefully a few more than we did last time, and have a chance to fry some up and enjoy that. That stuff is absolutely amazing. But Boundary Waters is on the plan. But generally speaking, I want to do a lot more of that. I'd love to do 2 or 3, quick trips a year, maybe one big trip. I'd like to get up to Quetico in Canada. I'd like to get to Algonquin. There's a couple different provincial parks that are just absolutely amazing looking, and I'd love to have the opportunity to go and do some of these long trips. So that's kind of the first change. The other one you may have seen too, if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, is hot tanning. This is something that is new to me, but something that I've been very interested in quite a while. I've always done winter camping. I've always enjoyed winter camping. Being out, I think I've got a video of being out in 7-degree weather in a hammock. And I've always wanted to do more of that kind of thing. And hot tanning just is, a whole different animal. But I'm very excited to add that to the repertoire. And I've actually got one set up in my backyard right now. Did the first burn in of the stove just a couple days ago, and I've kind of left it up just to get used to it, try it out a little bit, just hang out in there. I put it up the night that it was we woke up and it was 1 degree Fahrenheit, and I was sitting out there the night before, and it was probably 12 degrees and 20-mile-an-hour winds, and I had that thing just roaring. And it was about 65 degrees inside the tent, and I didn't know really what I was doing. So I was working on it, but that's pretty promising to just sit out there, have a beer, and it's 65 degrees, and it's like 12 degrees outside. So I'm really excited about doing that. Brent and I are actually looking at a couple different dates in February, and the plan is we're going to head up to somewhere where there's some snow. So we're actually looking at going up into Michigan, and specifically our target, our goal is Pictured Rocks in the winter. So we want to do a Pictured Rocks trip in February in the dead of winter, snowshoes and maybe a polk sled, and bring the hot tent and go do a night or two, up along Lake Superior in the dead of winter. So go big or go home. That's kind of what the hope is for the first big hot tenting trip. So between now and then, I've got to get up to speed and well versed and understand it inside and out, so that we're not putting ourselves into any kind of danger. But that's the plan with the hot tenting, at least to expand the channel and add some add some flavor. So it'll still be mostly backpacking, hot tenting, but maybe there'll be a car camping, hot tenting kind of trip in the cards that makes it easy. Go out there and set up and do a quick overnight. That'd be fun to do. So maybe down in Deem, I'd love to get down there once or twice before February and the end of February and test it out a couple different times just to get used to it. So super excited. But like I said earlier, I don't know. I don't know much when it comes to that stuff. So I've got to get up to speed just to show how much or how little I do know about the hot tenting stuff. Today it fell over in the backyard, so that's promising. So came back from wherever I was, went out in the backyard, and the whole thing was just collapsed on itself, and I had to go put it back up and figure out what went wrong. So error number one is make sure you bring beefy stakes to and not the ribeye type, the type to actually anchor the hot tent into the ground. With all the rain that we had yesterday, it softened the ground so much that those little red stakes that it comes with that kind of look like the MSR groundhog stakes, those things are not adequate. So the whole thing blew over today in the wind, and luckily the stove was cold and everything, so there wasn't any melting of tents or whatnot. But you don't want to be in the middle of the night and the whole thing collapses on you. So I've got to get that figured out. It's never windy and snowy and cold up along Lake Superior, is it? So that shouldn't be an issue at all. But yeah, and then I'd love to take that other places too. So, we're looking at Michigan, but I'd love to get up to New England. I'd love to take it up there. I'm talking to some folks about maybe doing a gathering up that way. And I don't know if I'd take it all the way out west and do something like that. Maybe, I don't know. I think there's enough within driving distance, but there's just not enough snow here in Indiana. You get the cold weather from time to time, like sitting outside and it's, single digits, but I really want to go somewhere where you got a snowshoe in and you got to set up camp and you're there for a couple days and then you got to pack it out. So I think that would be absolutely awesome. So the hot tenting, the canoe camping, I think are just going to be great additions to the channel, and just a little more variety and a little bit, for me too, it's a learning, I really enjoy learning the backpacking stuff, going from not really knowing much about it to feeling pretty confident, being able to go out in, some pretty challenging environments and, feeling pretty comfortable and really enjoying it. And that learning curve has just been so much fun to go through that, I really am looking for some other things that I think really dovetail well with the outdoor adventures. So, the canoe camping is the same thing. I've got some experience with it, but I'd really like to get more dialed in on that. And on the hot tenting, deep winter kind of stuff. I was watching the video. I don't know if you guys saw, I forget who it was, but it was, gosh, who was it? A bunch of the guys that went up to, they were actually in Boundary Waters in Minnesota, and it was like negative, I don't know, 15, 20 degrees, something like that. Negative 14, I think it was. And they woke up and they're in a hot tent and they're just trying to make do. And, that's harsh. That's tough environment. I want to get to that point. I think Lake Superior could be that, but we'll watch the weather. And with that trip to Pictured Rocks, I'm going to have probably two backups a little further south, a little more, lower peninsula stuff, so that if the storms are just absolutely gnarly up on Lake Superior, that maybe we hit somewhere, closer to the dunes or Manistee or something like that, a little further south, but still with the potential of some good snow, so that you still get that experience. You just don't have, the absolute, risk off the charts kind of stuff. So Let's see. Let's go through some of the chat stuff and see what everybody's chatting about here. Oh, let's see. What's the next trip? Well, that's the one we just, I think I'm gonna have a couple practice trips. So probably some local stuff. Maybe it's Dean, maybe it's Tecumseh, maybe it's somewhere Morgan Monroe, Low Gap, to test out the hot tent, and then we'll have the February trip with the hot tent, doing the backpacking, and then after that, we're trying to plan something in the spring. I'm not sure. Last year we did Smoky Mountains, which was a lot of fun, going down to Tennessee, North Carolina border and going out. It was supposed to be 5 days, and we ended up cutting it short and doing 4 days and 3 nights. Had to completely reroute the trip on the fly because of the weather and the creeks that were over their banks and whatnot. A bridge got washed out, all of that stuff. So we were thinking about maybe going there, but there's also a few other spots that are really interesting to us, whether it's West Virginia, kind of in that stretch too, that we're considering doing somewhere drivable from Indiana. We talked about Big South Fork. So that's to be determined, and that's probably going to be maybe somewhere in April if timing works out. That's kind of the hope, though. For later in the year, the big trips that we've got on the books right now is Boundary Waters is going to be the very end of June, early July. Do a week doing that, and then we're looking at probably mid-August is the next big trip. We're going out west, so we've got plans to head out this year back to the Winds in Wyoming. Was the plan for last year, and it got shelved. So we just brought that back to this year's plan, and we're looking to go back to the plans that we had for last year. So we have never been there before. Really excited. I know a couple in the chat. Michael, you've been there. I've watched a couple of your videos about heading out to the Winds. I've watched David Gray's got some good stuff of going out there. So there's lots of great content to see. But that's I think the big Western trip that we've got so far on the books for this year. So that's going to be dependent too on wildfires and all of that stuff too. And that was one of the big reasons. Last year was cost and some of the smoke and whatnot that was in that neck of the woods. We bailed and decided last minute, I think it was 5 or 6 weeks before the trip, to head back to Denver and head in and do the Holy Cross Wilderness, an hour or two west of Denver, which was absolutely awesome, spectacular. That was just on the shelf from, for a couple years out or something like that. We just grabbed that and said, that one's easy. Let's do that. Flying into Denver is about the simplest thing from Indianapolis, getting out there, and then, whatever's within a few hour drive. So there's a lot. I actually got the Colorado Trail guide for Christmas. So I've been actually going through that too. That'll be kind of in my back pocket anytime we want to go somewhere that's not super expensive and reasonable to get to, and you can completely customize how long you want to be out there. So maybe we'll be out there for 3 days, or we could be out there for 5 days, or you can totally customize it. So how many sections do you want to do? Which part of Colorado, the stretch that's closer to Denver, or the stretch that's way over closer to Durango, and there's so much in between. That's awesome. Close to where we were this last time, goes right through Leadville. So Mount Elbert, and the Holy Cross Wilderness, not far from there. The year before, the Four Pass Loop near the Maroon Bells, and that area is not too far away. So, there's just some epic stuff that's out there, and that seems pretty reasonable too from a cost standpoint and logistically speaking. So that's in the back pocket. And then we're still tossing around some things in the fall. But for me, I'm also looking to do a few different meetups this year. So that's kind of been a big goal of mine, is to continue to branch out into this community, into the outdoor community, and get together with some folks, some others too that are out there even doing the YouTube thing. So I think that would be awesome to meet some new faces and spend some miles on trail, getting to know some folks, and sharing a good drink, maybe sitting around the campfire, and having a good time. So that's on my agenda for this year, is definitely bringing some of the meetup stuff more into the normal routine. Right now, Brent and I go out a lot, and that's great. And I've done some of the solo trips. We've done some of those joint ventures. But I think it's time too to maybe expand the group a little bit, and it'd be great to plan, a group gathering somewhere, multiple personalities, and just have a great time, and see a new place, go somewhere, maybe meet some folks from different parts of the country. I'm talking about going up into New England, potentially doing a trip maybe in the Adirondacks. I don't know. I think there's some neat stuff up there that would be a lot of fun. New Hampshire, Vermont stuff sounds awesome too. I'd love to get to the Whites up that way. So those are all kind of things on my mind for trips and stuff this year for the channel. I will probably do a few family camper trips. I may film and post some of that stuff, because that's completely different. But I think that's just a whole different game. I did one of those this past year, of just going down to Lake Monroe and hanging out with some friends and doing some water sports, and had a great time. So there's different type of camping. It's not all just backpacking, but there may be some opportunity to have some of that in the cards for the channel this year. I'm still the bread and butter is still gonna be the backpacking, the gear reviews. I didn't do as many of the reviews. I tested out a ton of stuff. Just a few things made it onto film. So I really need to get back and do some more of that. I know there's been a lot of folks that have been asking for that stuff. My thoughts on different things. So I will continue to do that stuff with a little bit more regularity, hopefully in 22, at least one of those a month, just to have different topics. And on that front, there are some things that I'm definitely looking at testing out this year. So I've been working over the last couple of years to really get my stuff kind of dialed in, and this has probably been the year that I've added the least, like little things that I've added, or they've been like, things to help with YouTube and filming and capture better stuff. But this year I'm going to dabble in some other, bigger changes. So I've actually got 2 packs that I will be testing out here in the spring. I've been using the Z-Packs Arc Blast, going back to, let's see, I think my first trip with it was the very beginning of 2019. So I used it all of 2019, 2020, 2021, almost exclusively. I think I only did maybe one trip with a pack that wasn't the Arc Blast. Is that right? Only one. And I've loved it. I'm just kind of getting to the point where I want to try some other things, and there's been some new advancements when it comes to the materials that different vendors are using to build their packs. So I've got 2 different packs, 2 different sizes, kind of for 2 different purposes, that will be coming to me shortly, and I'm excited to test those out. Get some experience with them, and then do some reviews, once I've had a chance to really put them through their paces, maybe do an introduction, unboxing kind of thing. What do I think about it at first? But I always like to come back, and some of them are, a little late. You're reviewing stuff a year later, but I think it's more honest or more thorough when you've really had a chance to put something through its paces for a really long time. So I'm excited about doing that. But I'm also looking at some other stuff too. I've been using the Dutchware Chameleon Hammock almost exclusively for many of the last 3 or 4 years, and I love that thing. It's so comfortable in all different environments. Like I said, down to 7 degrees and snowy to on the AHT the other summer where it was just blazing hot, 80 degrees in the hammock at 2 o'clock in the morning, just sweating like crazy. But I love that thing. But I'm looking to branch out on that too. So I'm going to be looking at some different types of shelters, I think, as well this year. So bigger changes, not just the smaller kind of tweaks. And I'm excited. Just having something like that, the big three, kind of back on the table, is kind of neat for me. So some packs, some different shelters. I am talking to maybe get a different hammock as well too. As much as I love the Chameleon, again, I think it's just for comparison's sake. How do I view it compares to other things? It's kind of been the rock star, gold standard for me, but I'd like to look at some of the other ones. And I've talked to a couple of different vendors, and they put out great stuff. So I'd like to support some of the other folks that are out there too. So yeah, if you have any suggestions or things like that on that front, I'd love to hear that. And the tents too. I'm not a huge tent guy because I don't love sleeping on the ground. I joke that I've evolved out of that, but I get it. It's a huge space, and there's some places where it absolutely makes sense. So having some different options in that field is interesting to me too. So look for those as we get probably through the middle half of the year. I'll have enough experience with some of those things, and you may see them show up in some of the trip videos too, whether it's the shelters or the packs or some of the other stuff that I've been testing out, and we'll get some of those reviews out there. So bear with me. We'll get that stuff to you. But excited to have that stuff. I mentioned earlier there's merch stuff now too. If you haven't looked at probably some of my latest videos, you can go and find links. I'll put it down even in this one at some point in time down below. So if you want to get some of that stuff, there's you get your coffee mug, get your hoodie. There's a few different ones in there. So it just supports the channel. It allows me to continue to buy more gear, test out different things, and go from there. So, Chris, the Dream Hammock, I've never actually slept in one, but everybody that I talk to that has one or has used them loves them. I totally get that. The other one that I'm real interested in too, though, is the Trailhead Stuff. That I've been looking at that stuff for a while, and I don't know. There's just some neat stuff about that, and some of the quilts and whatnot. So that stuff may be something that I've just got to pull the trigger on too. So the war bonnet stuff. I mean, there's so many great stuff. What was the other one? Gosh, there's like 5 or 6 that I've been looking at for years, that I was looking at even way back when I did the Dutchware purchase. And, it was like splitting hairs, picking which one do I want. I think I went with Dutch stuff because it's modular and it was comfortable, and there was enough, ease of use, and I'd seen enough out there. But then once you get it, it's like you instantly have a little bit of buyer's remorse that you're looking at. Maybe I should have got that one. Maybe I should have got this one. Maybe if I'm lucky, I'll have the chance to try some of that stuff out. I just think it's so cool what everybody's putting out with these different ventures and how they're expanding and growing. So that stuff just looks really cool. So let's see what else is. Yeah, Brian, I saw that you were doing the section hike. You're starting at Springer, right, at the approach, and then are you doing all of Georgia? Is that the goal? That's pretty cool. I would love to do that too. This year was really neat because in 21 was actually the first time that I stepped foot on two of the different, two of the three long trails. So I actually got my first steps on the AT when we were going through the Smokies. So that was on that video back from, gosh, was it March? March, maybe April. Hey, there's Joey. I just saw him poke his head back in. They never know if I'm doing these, and I try and tell them, but you always get like one or two of the kids that kind of walks by and just does the is he live streaming? And then they kind of duck out as soon as they figure out that I am. But usually it's just me recording videos to post because, like I said, I haven't done a live stream since last year sometime. So, and yeah, that was the other thing. And that's not your duplex, is it? Isn't that Chris's duplex that you're borrowing right now? So, good luck not destroying that. It would suck if you had to buy Chris a brand new duplex. Yeah. So that's pretty awesome. So approach trail to Dix Creek Gap, 78 miles. How many days you doing that in? God, I got to hold some of this back. I know he's going to be on the show on Thursday. So yeah, I probably need to ask those questions. Otherwise, we're going to sit there and twiddle our thumbs and just drink. And I don't know what kind of that might be as boring as as you guys were talking about earlier. But we'll find something to talk about, I'm sure. He will be paying you $700 at the end of that journey. Well, they've gone up in price too, because I remember I actually bought the triplex back in 2019, and that thing's gone up in price. So I think there's a market for we just should buy this gear and then store it, and then you bring it out in like 2 years and sell it, and everything just appreciates in value. So how's that for an investment idea? You guys on board with that? What's everybody else up to this year? Do you have a big trip planned? What's the big one, either that you've got on the books or that you hope you're able to pull off this year? I would say mine is going out to the winds, maybe with a trip to the Whites as kind of a slight second, but I think those would be two epic trips. What do you guys got for your trips coming up? Love to hear that. What else have you guys been talking about? Let's go back in here because you guys have been blowing up in the chat, and I'm just rambling on and not able to keep up with. You don't? Let's see. What are you guys talking about? Michael has videos. He does? Yeah, he does. Go check it out. I could probably even look that up. Let's see here. Why don't we do that? For those that are curious, they're either watching now or gonna watch the replay. There's a few different channels of some folks that are here with us that it's always fun to share. And the folks that I'm heading out with hopefully this year to do some trips with. So, for example, this is Michael. I saw you in the chat. So I've actually been watching some of his stuff. What's the most recent stuff you've been doing? You've been posting a bunch of stuff. But I was watching the Wind River Range a couple different times. I think I've watched that like 3 or 4 times, just in doing some research for heading out to the winds. And and for some reason, I really like your bee videos for some reason. So I've watched a bunch of those. as well. But that hiking guy, he's been Chris has been in the chat as well. Go check out these guys' channels. Throw them a little bit of love as well. Brian's in here as well too. They'll be on, Chris and Brian, later this week talking about campfires and cat holes. We'll get into that a little bit more later on, but it's always fun. It's always neat to see some different folks in the YouTube world stopping by to check things out. So what else is going on, everybody? Let's see. Don't watch my stuff. Well, I can't help it. It's kind of like the Indiana. We all have to start there. It's like we watch David Gray and that hiking guy, and then you branch out and you start picking up a few others. That's why it was cool to come into the YouTube meetup the beginning of this past year. In the springtime, just to kind of put some faces to the names, so that was cool to do. But he jokes, he's got some good stuff. He was putting out you've been doing a lot of the overlanding stuff too, which is always neat. I'm lost in that world, but talking to Keith, Trail Medic, and his van rebuilds, and Brian and Chris that do a lot of the overlanding stuff too. And, that's a whole different world, but it's kind of neat to, see something different. It's kind of like looking at the hot tents or the, canoe camping stuff. It's just different, and enjoy it. So what else we got going on here? Mom wants to take me and my sister to Michigan in the summer. Might get lucky and get a one-night trip, but I'm sure it won't be to Pictured Rocks. Well, I think if you wanted to get into Pictured Rocks, I think it opened, was it this week? Is that everybody's permits? So I know people were talking about being on there day one, and some of the big sites on some of the popular days were starting to go. So you got to be on that. We were looking at that last summer, and it was impossible to get sites. And I don't know if you guys are the same way. When you look at it, there's like a few different spots midway along the trail that seem to be super popular. And I think it's with people that park in different spots midway and then hike in just to those spots and then leave. Because if you're trying to do a through hike across the entire Pictured Rocks route, there's like one or two or three campgrounds that those ones are completely booked out. And then the other ones, there's still availability, and it's a little sporadic, but you can do it. But you can't do the whole route without those two or three that are at like vital spots. So that kind of blew things up for us last year. And we ended up, that was another trip we had on the books, and just couldn't make the permitting work. So we did a trip out to Pennsylvania and did the Laurel Highlands hiking trail, which was a lot of fun. Probably my biggest regret was after that trip, everybody was in such a hurry that I wanted to stop at Ben's place, and I think he was on here earlier. I thought I saw him post something. Ben McMillan, who does Hilltop Packs stuff, which I've always been a fan of as well. So they've got, if you see, some of my pictures and whatnot, even the one that I had up, let me pull that back up, that I had up at the beginning of the stream. You can see, the Hilltop bag, the chair case. I've got a couple different like dry sacks from them for some of my gear on the inside. He's making packs now, which has also got me interested as well, because again, I just love the smaller vendors, the cottage companies, and supporting them. So I was really excited. Hopefully, in that trip to Laurel Highlands, I was really bummed that it didn't work out. But he had just launched, not too long before that, but a little while before that, the coffee venture, and being kind of a coffee fanatic myself, I really wanted to stop in to Hilltop and check out some of the coffee stuff and take that with. So I'll probably have to order some and just have it shipped out because I'm too interested in that stuff not to. But they have good stuff. So if you ever go look, he's got a range of different things, and it's just so cool to hear, people in that community that have just said, hey, I can add some value. I can build some of this stuff, and it's successful. And it sounds like, they're expanding and they're, branching out into different things, and awesome, more power to them and to that venture. I hope things continue in 22 to be, in the upward trajectory. So that's just pretty cool. So, but Hilltop, I wish we had a chance to stop and visit, because I'm also fascinated too by just the workshop stuff, getting to see how things are done behind the scenes, what they're doing, learn a little bit more about the products. So maybe that's something that I look at too, as I do some of these travels, maybe stop in and see some of these vendors if possible, and learn a little bit more about what they're doing. So, Hilltop just launched a cool roll top fanny pack. They've had a fanny pack, the roll top, I think for a little while, but I think he's doing it now out of completely different materials, and I think some of that's the interesting stuff from my point of view. You've seen some of the recycled materials. You've seen, if you haven't heard of the Ultra stuff, that seems to be coming big time now. So for, people that are using the DCF packs, the old Cuban fiber, the Dyneema stuff, we're seeing a lot of vendors. I'm seeing a bunch that have already started incorporating Ultra, which is a new weave that incorporates all this stuff, and but has a much greater abrasion resistance and greater tear strength. So it's more durable than the Dyneema, the DCF stuff, but it still has the waterproof, nature to it. You can tape all the seams, and the price point seems to be about the same, maybe even a little bit cheaper from what I can tell of the materials themselves. Buying the Dyneema stuff versus some of the Ultra stuff. So I'm really curious to see how that evolves in the marketplace. It's been a little while since we've seen a big revolution, since really the Dyneema stuff came into play, to make packs so much lighter and waterproof and durable and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I've looked at, I have a Light AF, which is another vendor that I like some of their stuff, and they've got packs and fanny packs and dry bags and are into the DCF, and I think they're doing some of the Ultra stuff now too. But yeah, it's cool stuff, and I think it's cool to see kind of the revolution of this stuff. So where are they going to go from here? What's next? But it's always neat too to see some of the innovation, the stuff. Like I really liked Hilltop, that you could print your own stuff. So that was just kind of neat to be able to then say, all right, well, I'm gonna get the logo on a couple of these different things, and it's just fun. It's cool to do that. So I actually did a few more of those. I'll probably show them on some of the other live streams, some of the other stuff that I've done. You may see, where is it, over here? That floating back there. I think that's a neat little addition. The logo sign in the background. So I've got a few other things like that are popping up around the house. This is kind of the setup where I do a lot of my video stuff here at my desk. But I'd really love to build out a little bit more, to have a space maybe in the basement where we could get a few folks together maybe and sit and have a drink and talk about different things and different topics. So, that's kind of on the wish list too for the next year. Maybe that'll happen in 22. So, Welcome. How's it going? How's everybody doing? It's good to see so many different faces. Um, I agree with you completely on the hilltop coffee stuff. I can't believe I haven't tried it yet. I gotta get some of that. So if you know anybody, now I'll just get on the site and help them out. So what else is going on, Tanya? What were you talking about? You were talking about which fanny pack do you have? Do you have hilltop, or did you get something different? Fruit snacks and Jolly Ranchers. Sounds like a perfect combination, right? Although I'm more the Mike and Ike's and peanut M&Ms. That's like the staple on every one of my trips. That would be pretty good. I would love to see that. No, I don't know if I'd love to see that, but I think that would be funny to see show up in his merch shop. And I think this would make it better if you did it with the Costanza pose. That would be pretty epic. Oh. And where did I get that logo float? Well, wait till Thursday. Maybe we'll talk about it then. Let's see what else everybody's chatting about here. So, I wish I still had my. Is that CNC? Needs to make signs like that. Well, they're pretty cool, and I know that that one was actually made by. There's a family that's just got a workshop, does a bunch of different stuff like that, and was pretty cool to just. And they'll make different sizes, and you have a logo or an image, and they'll give you a mock-up, and then it just it's pretty automated, but it's super cool that they can put stuff like that together, and I think it turned out great. So I'm trying to figure out where to put it permanently. It just keeps showing up in some of my videos, so right now it's there. I think the other one, it was sitting over here somewhere. Maybe it'll move around in every video, and it'll be kind of like the where's Waldo thing, where you gotta figure out where it is. Maybe it'll be back there by the red lamp. Who knows? That could get fun. So you said it's just a cheap. It's just a no brand, just a cheapo. Hey, that's some of the best stuff though. But yeah, I think we all are looking at. We all start that way. Well, that reminds me though. One of the videos I was joking with Brent about that we may end up doing. Somebody else did a similar one, a little bit different though. My thought was pull out all the old gear that you took on your first or second backpacking trip. And if you still have it, let's do a trip with just that gear. So I'm excited to do that. I think that would be hilarious because I barely filmed at all back then. And some of the stuff is just insane. I really didn't know what I was doing and didn't know where I was going as far as what I wanted to be doing outdoors. I didn't know if I was a bushcrafter, a backpacker, a car camper, and I kind of mashed them all together, and it's like Frankenstein's monster. So it's pretty awful. But it'd be hilarious to try and do a camp out somewhere, just taking all your original stuff that we all buy, because we're just trying to test it out and see, do we even like doing this? I don't want to spend a whole lot of money doing this. And it's just a mismatch of stuff if you're like me, and it doesn't all fit together, and it weighs like 50 pounds, and it was pretty miserable. And I think it'd be kind of fun though, just to do like a before and after of what does that trip look like. I would love to have had, and I don't have this, I'd love to have a picture of me on that trip with the full gear. I've got a couple kind of pictures, but it doesn't show the gear. It doesn't show what all I brought. And I think it'd be pretty hilarious. So that would be pretty cool. Yeah. I didn't know what I was. It's like that. What's that Progressive commercial that's out right now? The Save-a-thon thing. It's like 20 words mashed together. That's kind of what I was as a car back bush hiker. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube. Well, let's see. We're coming up on an hour, and let's go through a couple more of the chat stuff, and then maybe we'll wrap it up in a few minutes. But it's been a lot of fun just seeing you guys chat back and forth. Bought my first backpack and hammock setup last year, so still what I'm using. Not use the pack yet. Well, hopefully this year you get a chance to use the pack. But hopefully it works out well for you. I think everybody wishes that they could be like the one that buys everything one time. You know, they say, you know, cry once, you know, buy once, cry once kind of thing of save up, get the thing that's really good. But the issue is we don't know what's really good. We think we do. And then we buy something, and then if you're like me, you end up doing a lot more research, and you go down that rabbit hole, and then you figure out, oh, I thought that fit for what I was trying to do, and it totally doesn't. And I didn't even know this whole other thing exists, and maybe I want to go that way. So I figured it out pretty quick, but there's still ample room for you know, review and soul searching, looking at what mistakes and that's another one I've actually looked at that's in my book of ideas to do a video on is gear I should have never bought, gear mistakes, you know, going back to the very, very beginning. And some of the stuff is good gear, like well rated, people like it, but it didn't work for me. You know, it was one of those things that I wanted to love it. I used it a few times and just realized I'm actually looking for something different, you know, and it helped me through that process of trying to figure out what I really wanted out of a tent. The first really good tent that I bought for backpacking was it my second tent? My first tent into backpacking tents, I think my tent was about 4 or 5 pounds at least. 5 pounds, 4.5, something like that. And it was great because, you know, I thought it was great. And it was fine. It's a little heavy. I probably would have wished to have waited and bought something a little bit later, you know, but I was worried about the cost, and I want to get something that was reasonable. And it was a Eureka tent, and you know, a single person, side entry, you know, double wall, you know, it's a good tent. I really like it. I still use it from time to time, but I typically use it more car camping. Like if I do a scout trip where I don't need to bring a big tent, I'm just going to bring something and have that. I've brought that before and still have, you know, fairly recently. But then you look at, what did I buy? I bought the Big Agnes Fly Creek 2. I bought the 2-person because I did realize from the other one that I liked having a 2-person tent a little bit bigger. It's really like a person and a half. You can fit 2 like 20-inch air pads next to each other. So it's only 40 inches wide or something like that. But good tent. I mean, if you know the Big Agnes stuff, the Fly Creek is a good tent. I don't like that tent at all. I hate the front entry, you know, the narrow side. So like if you sleep from head to feet, the door's where your head is. It's not on the side. So for me, I didn't realize that at first. I just read the reviews. People really loved it. It's really light, 2 pounds and change. So, fit all the boxes I thought. And I just hated every morning and evening, like climbing in and out over my pillow. I just felt like I'm tracking stuff in. There's not an easy way to like get your shoes on in the morning because the entryway is so narrow. So, hey, that's something that you learn over time. But the Fly Creek is something that I liked. What did they come out with after that? It was literally like 6 months after I bought it. They came out with the side entry, and I think they have doors on both sides. If you get like the 2-person, gosh, now I got to look that up. The Big Agnes tent. What's it called? Tiger Wall. Because the other one that was really nice, that everybody loves. What's that one called? It's there's those 3. So you've got, I'm looking it up. I'm sorry. I gotta remember what this is. I haven't looked at these in a while. Copper Spur, the Copper Spur. So let me show this. So you had the Copper Spur, which I was looking at the time, and where's the Fly Creek at? Oh, here it is. So here's the 1-person. I don't know what the solution die is. I haven't even looked at that in a while. But they went into like the Platinum and I think they had a DCF version of the Fly Creek and the Tiger Wall. So they made the Fly Creek, and as you can see, it's kind of narrow entry door, and you're kind of climbing in, and then you're climbing in, and you have to stick your feet all the way down to the far end. The head has to be at the doorway, just because of the height and all of that, the way they have it designed. And then the Tiger Wall was pretty much the same footprint, but they just put the doors on the side, and I was like, that's so much better. Why didn't I wait for that one? I didn't know that thing was coming. But that just seemed like it fixed all my answers. But at that point in time, I think I bought a hammock, and I haven't put the thing down. So I never bought the Tiger Wall, and I probably would love that tent. So I probably need to sell the other one, the Fly Creek, and just chalk it up to learning experience. But I've literally used it like 5 times, maybe 5 times, and I knew I didn't love it, and there were other options. And then I had a chance to try. I got a triplex from Z-Packs for our trip out to New Mexico, and I was going to be tenting with one of the other dads, so I wanted plenty of space. So the 3-person is really more like a 2.5. So if you're going to be with 2 people, the Duplex I've always kind of viewed as like the 1.5. It's like a palace, for a 1-person. Brian, you might be able to talk about that. Chris, you might be able to talk about that with your 2. I've never owned the Duplex, but some people just say it's so roomy and comfortable. The solution died is an environmentally friendly. Okay, is that what that is for the? I hadn't seen that one before, so I wonder how long that's been out. But to be honest, I haven't looked at the Big Agnes stuff probably in more than a year. You see it on sites from time to time, but all right. What are you guys talking about? Are you talking about the? Yeah, you're a big fan of the. Yeah, you guys were shouting out the Tiger Wall before I figured it out. I need to stop looking it up and just look at the chat, because you guys have all the answers flying through there. So, well, I'm glad. Yeah, I agree. Totally agree with this. Great tent. Hate the door. And that's why I think the the tiger wall is probably the solution to all of that. Yeah. So the tiger wall is the way to go. Have you ever looked at the tiger wall? Have you ever considered it, or were you like me, where you're like, I've already bought it. I sank too much money into that. I'm not changing. So, but the side entry, I think, is the way to go. That's just so nice. So, yep, that's why I've looked at the Duplex. I have now the Six Moon Designs, the Lunar Solo, which is a big solo tent. It's like 1.5 people, single pole, hiking pole, side entry. Used that out in Colorado and loved it. I think I would love to have that set up in maybe a Dyneema DCF kind of setup, or maybe if the Ultra stuff is ever made into tents, that might make some sense. But I'm also looking at that and saying, the Lunar Solo is really good and it's pretty light. It only weighs like 26 ounces. So if you look at the models that are out there, the DCF stuff is expensive and probably cuts you from 26 ounces to 15. If you look at like the Plexamid or something like that, or the Ultiplex for Z-Packs is a similar design. Yeah, you're cutting some weight, but you're spending like $500 or $600 to save 11 ounces. Man, that the Lunar Solo is pretty sweet for $230 or whatever it is. So that was the last purchase that I made was buying the Lunar Solo, and I haven't used it a lot. I mean, I've had the thing probably a year and a half, and I've only taken on a couple trips. The Colorado was the biggest one, but I liked it. I can't imagine if somebody gives me another tent. I'll try it out. I'm not going to say no, but I don't know. I have a hard time justifying unless it's just for the channel. I'm doing a gear review. Is a manufacturer willing to send me something to look at? Yeah, I'm probably not buying something just to buy something different, to save a little bit of weight. I don't know if you guys are like this too, but Brent and I have that conversation all the time about ultralight versus lightweight versus comfort on trail versus comfort in camp. And he kind of has the mindset of, hey, let's be as lightweight as we possibly can. If I can get my base weight under 10, great. He's in Colorado, he was sleeping under a tarp, and we had super windy conditions and sideways rain, and it was getting wet, and said, I think I wish I had a little bit more coverage, but I really like the lightweight stuff. I think I'm more in the camp that is, I'd rather carry some extra weight, and just train and be ready to go. If my pack's 15 pounds and his is 10, I'm still pretty happy with 15 pounds. And I think there's a lot of people out there that, would love to be under 20 pounds. I've backpacked with some folks that are trying to get under 30 pounds. So, I'm at 15 pounds. I may add a little bit more for comfort, for safety, for coverage in different areas. I'm bringing more now in camera gear than I ever have. Colorado, at sometimes I was looking at carrying, 4 or 5 pounds of camera equipment stuff, batteries and whatnot. So, that's just what I'm looking at. So I'm looking at packs that maybe aren't the frameless, super light stuff. I want something that can maybe carry a little bit more, because I may have some trips where my base weight is 18, 19 pounds, and then loaded up with food and water, I'm at, 25 plus. I'm totally cool with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. And I think he has more of a problem that, yeah, I just want to be at 11 pounds. I just want to be at, 9 pounds. And that's great. I don't want to be cold. I don't want to be wet. I don't want to be, any of those. So, but that's just me. And I think that's something that we all go through and figure out over time. What are we comfortable with? What's our budget? All of that stuff. So yeah. Welcome to my world on the camera gear. And I'm trying to be lightweight with that stuff. I started bringing a GoPro because I liked the lightweight, weatherproof option, but bringing the camera, the mirrorless, gives me better shots in certain situations. So, do I want to bring both? I have. I'm not proud of it. And then I've got that 360 camera, which I absolutely love from this year, that just provides some really neat shots. So I think it provides some pop that I really enjoy, and it's really neat to figure out how to use that well. But now I'm bringing 3 different cameras. Really, is that where I've evolved to? But that may be the way that I go. And then you're talking about batteries for all of them. Keeping them all charged, all of that. And, and trying to do some of these trips. We're talking about, doing something in the winds. I think it was like 50 miles in like 5 days. And what I've noticed about, hiking in altitude is it's tough for me, doing 10, 12, 15-mile days at 10,000 feet plus with climbs. Like, I struggle with some of that stuff, and I train for it before I go. Like, when we did Colorado, I think I spent 6 weeks just treadmill, incline, strength training, different things to get ready. And if you watch that video, the Holy Cross stuff, I'm huffing and puffing, and I can't hide it in the video. Like, it's all over the place. But I think the whole trail was like above 11,000 feet until the last like half day. So, just gonna have to deal with the thin air, and then all the vertical stuff. It's all vertical. You're either climbing straight. We had one day where we went to a straight climb, and then we had a straight descent down the other side, and then we were at camp. And that was it. There was no flat ground the whole day. So, I've just got to train and be okay with that. But I want to bring the gear. I want to bring some of that stuff and put together, a quality, video about that. I enjoy that stuff too. And the worst thing is getting back at the end of a trip and you have an epic time and you miss, the camera died or whatever. I had a little bit of that stuff in Holy Cross, and that stuff's tough. And there's nothing you can do after the fact. So, yeah, the hammock stuff, I'm with Chris on that too. The hammock stuff is so much more comfortable to me, but I know you can't take it everywhere. I'm supposed to go back to New Mexico in 23, and where we go, Philmont Scout Ranch, they don't allow hammocks. It's tents only. So I have to have an option. So maybe the Lunar Solo will still be rocking it for me. It's a great little tent. Well, I appreciate that, Michael. I like putting it together, and I like having good content. I like having, I like the higher def stuff. I like the 4K. I think it just looks really good. Really been working through 21 to work on the image stabilization stuff. How do you get it so that you get all the images that you want, but you're not herky jerky, the camera's not shaking all over the place. So, that's been kind of a labor of love that, and then you get back and then it gets creative of how do you splice it all together. Sometimes it comes out really, really well. I really like the product. And sometimes it's like, gosh, I missed some stuff. How do I make this work? And still have it pieced together and look reasonable. So, okay, don't even get me started though about the drone stuff, because I've looked at that and balked at that stuff so many times, just because, again, I don't know enough about that to really make the call of what would work and what wouldn't work. I think the video of that stuff looks amazing. I love how they, people add that stuff to their videos just to give a better view of what's the landscape look like. I think that's really cool. Chris, I'm just going to have to drag you along on all my trips so that I can piggyback off of your drone footage. So the wins and the whites coming up this year. Get training, be ready. We're going to do, huge miles and lots of vertical, but I need you to bring your drone. So hope that works. Yeah, I've looked at the Z1. I've looked at, oh, that's funny. We start talking about cameras and my camera goes out for a second. It was doing that yesterday when I was doing some test run stuff. I think it's my PC's dying though. I've got a USB ports in the back that they're getting a little squirrely. And that's what the camera's plugged into right now. Is it's plugged directly into the PC. But I've got like two of them that work just randomly and then don't work just randomly. And this is a third one, and that one mostly works, but about 2% of the time it just drops for 5 seconds and then reboots right away. I don't know why, but I got to buy a new PC now. I'm not bringing that on trail though. I'm not bringing my PC on trail. That's I got to get like a MacBook Air or something. Is that what you do if you're backpacking with your? Yeah, I hear you. The drones too. I have not. Tell me though, anybody that has seen any of the videos lately, is it me or does the 360 camera have kind of a drone-ish, like drone light feel to it? Have you ever seen that stuff? I wonder if I can pull that up just for people that haven't seen it. I know I've got a video coming out of Fancy Pass. If I can find the video real quick, I will just throw it up onto the screen. Here it is. Okay, I don't know why I put it up in front of, you can't see this. Let me pull it over here and then I'll share it. All right, so let's go back and look at the beginning of this. So this is me with the 360 camera. And what's really cool is, so I'm holding the pole, but the camera automatically cuts it out of view. So you're holding it's like a big selfie stick, but it gives kind of the impression that, there's like a drone in front of you or behind you. And I think that's just kind of a cool look, and you get to like see the mountains on either side. So I only use a couple different shots of that, but it is kind of neat to have some of that stuff. So that's the 360 camera. Again, that I'm bringing that. I'm bringing the pole that's like, I don't know, 6 feet long. The tripod for that. I forget what the weight of all that stuff is, but I do keep track of that. Add it to my lighter pack page, which I still use that all the time. I don't know if you guys use that either. But I love, having that stuff so that you can inventory all your stuff and throw that in there. But, I can add in, do I have in it? Yeah, there's the 360 camera. The camera itself is only 6 ounces. The selfie stick, I don't know why I started putting those in grams, 95 grams, 187 grams. So if I'm only bringing those two, it's only 2 pounds. But I didn't add the batteries in that. So I got to add the batteries. And then if I'm bringing the mirrorless, that's another couple pounds. So you're probably looking at 4 to 6 pounds of just the camera gear, and not getting into the selfie stuff or the looking at the drone stuff or any of that thing. But I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I just like the way that looks. The weird thing about it is when you film with that camera, it gets 360 view around, and then you have to figure out back in the studio which angle you want to show. So it could show looking away from you. It could show straight up, straight down, out to the side. back to you, and you can change the angle. So it's really weird. It's like it just captures everything, and then you decide later, what to do to add. And I totally agree. You can't train for the lack of oxygen. All I do is try to do as much vertical as I possibly can. I get on the treadmill and put it to straight up, and then I try and do that as long as I can, at as fast as I can. And sometimes that it helps when I go to color. I do notice that too. And with Brent, I don't think with his work schedule, he doesn't get nearly as much time, I think, to train, or he just assumes that he's younger than me and, whatever. But I train for it. And then, I do pretty well. As much as I'm huffing and puffing, I still plow through some of those climbs, and kind of pride myself on, like, I want to be able to do these climbs and I want to crank them out and whatever. When we did Mount Elbert, and the tallest peak in Colorado, the second tallest in the lower 48, we get to the last probably half mile to the top, and I just went. And we'd been going for hours and hours. It took us like, I don't know, 5 hours, 6 hours to get to the top. And I was just like, okay, we were hiking together for most of the trail. And at that point I just said, I can do this. Let's go. And I just cranked it out. And I got to the top and filmed, and, kind of hung out for a while. And it was like 30 minutes later, and Brent shows up at the top, and, we get some selfies and had a beer, but I just flew up that last section, even as tired as I was. And that was all the training going into that stuff. So for me, it made a difference. And I was still sucking wind, Michael, on your point. There's no real way, especially in Indiana, which is like, what is it, 900 feet of elevation? Is that what it is? Something like that. It's hard enough just going out to Denver, where it's, 5,000 feet of elevation. And then you get up to like the Holy Cross, where the entire trip was like above 11,000. We didn't camp below 11,000 until the last night, so we couldn't have fires. So sleeping at elevation, you're, oxygen deprived all night long. You don't get the recovery, all of that kind of issue. But unless you live out there, there's no real way to acclimate to it at all. You just, you're stuck dealing with it. And luckily neither one of us had much of altitude sickness, but lots of people do. It's super common. So, well, what else we got going on? Let's see what else you guys are chatting about here. You guys are talking about the hammocks, the different ones. I would love to try out some different ones. Yeah, you want, and I get that too. Talking about shooting in the 1080. It's tough. The last trip, I think I shot everything in 4K. And then, gosh, is it crazy though? The upload stuff, you put that up onto YouTube, and it takes them forever, especially if the video's any kind of length, to process that stuff. Just is crazy. But it looks good. I do almost all of my stuff has been in 1080. But I like to be able to put it out in 4K if I can. So, yeah, it does. That has that drone kind of feel to it. So, all right, let's jump down. The knobstone is calling. The funny thing, so then if you guys don't know, if you're not from Indiana, the knobstone is one of the longer trails in Indiana, and it's probably the most brutal from like a vertical, up and down, up and down. They call it, what do they call it? Is it like the mini AT, something like that? Lots of people train for the AT on the knobstone because it's such a just straight up, straight down, straight up, straight down. There's no switchbacks. It's in southern Indiana, which you still have some of the kind of rolling hills through that part of the state. I've never done it. So I would love to still go check it out. We meant to do this back in 2020, and 20, yeah. And I tore up my knee playing basketball, showing my daughter, how to really play basketball in the backyard. And no, it was going about 10% speed, tore my meniscus. And when did I do it? Beginning of November. And we were supposed to do the Knobstone like the first week of December in 2020. So our goal was to do the Tecumseh, the adventure hiking trail, and the Knobstone, kind of the 3 longer trails in Indiana. And totally ruined that, tearing up my knee, had surgery in December. And it's been pretty good up until the last probably 2 months. All of a sudden, I've really been ramping up the training, and my knee just not like the pounding of running anymore. So I'm going to have to, I've been scaling back and really letting it rest, but my knee has been killing me. But getting back out to the Knobstone, it's still kind of like a thing. But the funny thing is, I think once you start to like branch out and you see Red River Gorge and you see, some of these other areas that are just a little bit further, let me do a drive. The Knobstone doesn't seem to have as much draw, but it's so close. I'm going to crank it out at some point in time. And you and I, we may do a section hike or whatever and just, do that, because I can't believe I haven't. And to have a trail like that in the state and just haven't tackled it, shame on me. But I gotta, I gotta crank that out. I can't go all these other epic places and like, I haven't even gone through Indiana. So, all right. So that's it, I think, for today. Why don't we wrap it up there? We've been going about an hour and a half. I really appreciate everybody stopping in and throwing the chats in. Like I said earlier, if you weren't here for that, I am going to have Chris and Brian from That Hiking Guy and Carlson Adventures come on Thursday night of this week. We're going to do the live stream at 8:00, and we're going to talk a little bit about their new channel, what they're doing, and what their plans are for the year, what they've got going on. Just again, kind of branch out into the community, talk to some other folks that are, doing this kind of stuff, enjoying this kind of stuff, and kind of build that community. So if you get a chance, come back. I will post that, schedule that sometime here soon, so you guys know that that's coming, but I'll give you a heads up. Look for that Thursday, 8:00. And then if all goes well, cross your fingers. I'm still waiting to hear from one YouTube personality to come join me the following Thursday, potentially, when we talk a little bit about some hot tenting and some winter camping and some kind of really harsh environment kind of stuff. So I've got one that's on board for that. I'm looking for a second again, so we can have kind of a nice conversation, a nice round table. Maybe that following Thursday, if everybody's schedule works out. If not, I'm still going to do that at some point in time, but it just may not be that following one. But the one for this coming Thursday is in the books, and look for Chris and Brian to join me Thursday night. So thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. Until next time, be well.